So Liverpool make it an impressive 6 out of 6 wins in the group stages this evening. Make sure you stay where you are, and straight after the break, myself, ᴅᴏᴛ and Michael Owen will look through all the night's big talking points and plenty more. See you shortly. Welcome along, you're watching Champions League tonight. It's very nice to have your company as the group stages draw to a close in the Champions League on BT Sport this season. To join in the conversation, use the hashtag UCL tonight. We'd love to hear from you this evening. Plenty to talk about. But first, let's just confirm the results. You've just seen all the goals. Let's just confirm what happened this evening. It was a difficult night for Manchester City, but a brilliant night for Leipzig, and they needed this after recent struggles and their change of manager. They beat City 2-1 this evening. Paris Saint-Germain also qualified. 4-1 winners over Club Brugge. We'll talk about Kylian Mbappe before too long. Liverpool, they've done it. 6 games, 6 wins. The first English side to win all 6 group stage games in the Champions League. Atletico Madrid are the side that joined them in the knockout stages after beating Porto 3-1. We'll take a look at that as well, because it got fiery between those two sides. And we've now had 12 teams qualify for the knockout stages, including Ajax, who beat Sporting 4-2. A good night for Dortmund, but a really rubbish campaign by their standards. 5-0 winners over Besiktas this evening, but still poor from their perspective. Real Madrid 2, Inter 0, and it finished Shakhtar 1, Sherrif 1 as well in the other game in that group this evening. But we're going to start with a conversation about Mo Salah in the company of Michael Owen and ᴅᴏᴛ. Nice to have you both with us. Let's just get straight into it. John O'Sullivan said, how can there be a debate about giving Salah the contract he wants? He must be involved in 90% of our goals at this stage. James Pearce points out that only 2 players have ever reached the milestone of 20 goals at this stage of a competition. A certain Ian Rush and Roger Hunt. And I like this one. Salah has 20 goals in all competitions. It's still early December. He's yet to play in the Africa Cup of Nations and possibly a World Cup. The Egyptian king is not taking part, but taking over. Did either of you think when he first sort of emerged, particularly in English football, that he was this kind of player, a player that could take over to this level?
No, I honestly didn't. I mean, he obviously went to Chelsea and didn't really set the world alight, and obviously that's why he had to go on to find a new pathway to get to the level he's at now. But there's some players over, like you look at the Messis and the Ronaldos, you look at the Haalands, the Mbappes, you lay eyes on them immediately, you go, superstars. They're going to be superstars. With him, it wasn't really that for me at the beginning. But the way he's grown, the way he's just developed into this player where he's deciding games at will, he's not either creating goals or he's scoring goals. But 20 goals before December is an absolute joke. Yeah. It's out of order, really. What was your best number before Christmas?
I wouldn't have a clue, but what I can say is Mo Salah is... the main improvement is in his finishing, because he's always been quick. Rio says you didn't see so much in the early days, but obviously we all saw his pace. But what you can do as a finisher, there's a couple of different types. There's obviously the instinctive finisher, the runs that you can make, the timing of the runs, nicking across a defender when a cross is coming in, things like that. Knowing where the ball's going to land, it's all instinctive. What he's improved, though, this guy, is his actual finishing. And normal finishing like that is about repetition. It's about being in positions all the time. And, I mean, I learnt it when I was growing up. I think he's learnt it later in life because he's almost been put in the position a lot of the time now. But I learnt early in life, just by getting 10 chances every game in under-9s, what finishes work for me. I hated going around the goalkeeper. I just didn't want to do it. So that never worked for me. I used to think, right, I'd dink it. Dinks work for me. I'd get into any position, and because of repetition, I'd know what works for me in certain areas. And we've seen him almost learning on the job. He was a poor finisher, an average finisher, early in his career at Chelsea, and then he's just got better and better and better. And that, for me, is repetition. He's still the instinct side of things. I think he could get better on, actually, because I don't really purr over watching him. When the ball gets knocked in, I don't think he's got great movement in terms of nicking across a defender in a near post or things like that. But his hardcore finishing has just improved no end. And that is down to repetition in my eyes.
Interesting stuff. Lots of conversation as well this evening about Divock Origi. Leanne Prescott says, difficult role to fulfil when you know you're not going to displace Salah, Mane, Jota or Firmino. But Origi has found a way to make a difference when called upon this season. An impact player, a great finisher, and someone who genuinely isn't appreciated enough. Do you agree with that? Isn't appreciated enough?
Well, maybe by people outside the club, but within the club, I know for a fact the players appreciate him because of what he does and the value that he brings. He's decisive when he comes on. He has an impact when he comes off the bench. That's what you want from substitutes. You want him to come get into the game, get the temperature straight away, and that's it. And I think well, our page of players that played like that and done things like that, what he's doing, who came and impact things. Were they worthy of statues? I don't know. But Origi, there seems to be a big shout for an Anfield statue outside, so we'll see.
It's almost like he remembered that he could create Liverpool history once again and make sure they were the team that had won all 6 group games. He just seems to score those sorts of goals, doesn't he?
He does. He scores lots of goals. I think when you talk about Origi, I think what he has done, he's made up Jurgen Klopp's mind in terms of during the African Cup of Nations, I don't think Liverpool need to buy anyone. I know probably Liverpool fans around the world will want them to, but I just don't see any point. Here's his goal here today. Really good the way he reacts.
How hard is it
with
to do
plenty of power?
That instant reaction. Is it just an instinct thing?
It is an instinct thing, yeah. I don't think it's not hard. It's a very, very good finish. But I mean, it's not necessarily that hard to finish. I wouldn't put it level of difficulty too high.
Would you agree that he's actually better when it's an instinctive finish, when he hasn't got to think about it? We saw a chance earlier in this game when he was on the inside left, when he opened up his body to curl it in the top corner and he got it all completely wrong. I think when he's got to think about it, that's when he's at his worst.
I've said exactly the same. Remember the goal against Barcelona when Trent took a good brilliant corner kick? Yeah. He was like the rest of the Barcelona players. He was like milling around, not even looking. And he was the first one to turn around and almost came to him like that. And that was then a good finish. I agree with you. I think he's a good instinctive finisher. But just going back to the point, a lot of people were thinking Salah, Mane, going to the African Cup of Nations, talking about whether they would buy someone. If you get Firmino back fit, you've got Jota firing on all cylinders and Origi, and then you've got some subs like, Minamino, players like that. So I don't think, for the sake of a few games, I don't think Jurgen Klopp will buy in January.
What about his future? I mean, Rio doesn't ask that many good questions, but he asked a good one this evening of Crouchy, didn't he? He said, if you had your time again at Liverpool, would you stick it out or would you leave again? How would you play it? What does he need to do? Does he need to stay there and accept his position? Or if you were him, would you be looking for a move to a club further down the league where you're going to start every week?
On balance, I would probably stay at a club like Liverpool, play half the amount of time, but when you play, it's real. And you're playing for big prizes, you're playing in the best stages, it's the best teams and the best competitions. That's what I would do. It's not an easy position to be in, really, for him. But rather than playing every minute of every game for a mid-table team, to have moments like that, I mean, what are you going to be remembered for? When you're 50, 60, he'll be remembered for about 5 different moments in a Liverpool shirt.
He's a cult figure, I think, at Anfield. But one thing we couldn't forget today from the game, it might have been missed by a few, but it wasn't me. A fellow centre-half produced a bit of skill in the penalty area. Look at this.
It's the last person you'd expect of him, isn't it? 2 players have just got to pay to get back into San Siro. They've just slid out of shot.
Can you just show us that again, please, on quarter speed?
I will.
I want full Rio Ferdinand touchscreen analysis on this.
Well, if you watch him here, just watch for a second. He recovers. Just going to pause it there. Watch these 2 players here. Got there, Kessie and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I don't think they realise that they're going to have to come back into the stadium at some point, but the way they fly past the ball here is beautiful.
You think Nat Phillips knows that there's 2, one either side?
I think he knows that.
He knows Zlatan, doesn't he?
Zlatan's there, but the other one, I think, is a tinge of luck maybe, but you have to give him the credit. It's beautiful. Baresi at the San Siro.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And have a look at this comment that came in on social. This one's from Lenita. She said, I've lived in a lifetime when Nat Phillips has done this move to send 2 Milan players flying in the middle of the San Siro. What a time. What a moment it was as well. Right. Thank you, gentlemen. Right, we're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Plenty more still to come on this evening's Champions League tonight. Remember, if you want to join in the conversation, if you've got a question for Rio or Michael as we come towards the end of the group stages, just use the hashtag UCL tonight, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes. No. Welcome back. Let's talk Kylian Mbappe. There has been so much happening on social this evening. Optagene says he scored his 30th Champions League goal, becoming the youngest player to reach the milestone in the competition's history. Clinical Haaland says Mbappe scoring 30 at the age of 22 is insane. I think this is an interesting one, though. 22-year-old Kylian Mbappe is already among the top 25 scorers in the Champions League with 31 goals. I'd like a little bit of a striker's masterclass from you on the skills he possesses and how he operates and maybe how hard he'd be to defend against.
Well, he's a phenomenal player with great pace, direct, isn't he? He can finish. You'd have to say that he's got all the attributes that actually make you think that he could go on to be the best player in the world once the likes of Messi and Ronaldo hang up the boots. We mentioned Salah before. When you see him playing, he's got the similar pace, but when you saw him playing at Chelsea, let's say, you didn't see that touch of class that Mbappe has got. Now, don't get me wrong, he's developed and surprised everyone, Salah, whereas this guy is almost, you know, the real deal right from the start, and who knows where he can go to. Here's a few clips of his performance today, his goals today. You know, passing, running, direct. His finishing is very calm. I wouldn't say he's an unbelievable finisher, but he's a very good finisher. Just passes it into the back, and I like that. I think, you know, players that just blast it all the time, I don't think you're going to score as many goals as you should.
Can you explain why you would have him down as a good finisher, not an unbelievable finisher? What's he lacking in that department?
It's very hard to you know, he's a very good finisher.
Yeah.
He's a very good finisher. He places it nicely. He obviously gets a lot of chances because of the type of player he is, and he's very direct. He doesn't, when he runs through on goal, at the moment, I don't think goal. You know, if Haaland runs through, I think goal. I think he's ruthless, absolutely ruthless finisher. Salah, I can't see Salah missing nowadays in certain situations. I think he's a very good finisher, but I think he can improve. I think this is an interesting goal as well, just his movement here. The way he almost, you know, he gets in front of his, or behind his man, and he almost just makes this lovely darting run in here. But when he gets this side, if you just play it slowly, watch the defender, he sort of takes his eye off him for 1 minute, and then as soon as he looks at the ball, bump, and he gets his half a yard there. And this isn't an easy finish. When the ball's going away from you on the volley, very difficult to finish and get a really good contact. But he absolutely hits it out the middle, and it's a lovely finish. Obviously a great assist, but just knowing where the goal is and hitting it as clean as you can.
I think everything about his game scares defenders.
Right.
He's a scary proposition for any defender, whether you're a quick defender. But this guy's got pace on a different level, and his anticipation for things, his awareness, his speed, his thought of movement is phenomenal. And I'd say, I'm looking at you, Mo, as a striker. Who do you take then out of these two? Because he's come on in this game, Haaland. He scored 2 in 13 minutes. His record is actually ridiculous as well, by the way. He's over a goal a game in Champions League football. He's like Mo said, he's a ruthless finisher. He's got stuff in his game that he'd scare you with as well as a defender, no matter what type of defender you are. But who do you take, Mo?
Oh, it's a horrible question. I think I'd take his mind. I'd take his sort of attitude towards it. You know, he's a ruthless, horrible finisher. You know, he just wants to score goals.
He loves that, by the way.
Yeah, I do. Because I think you can almost will the ball into the net a lot of the time. Whereas I think Mbappe is just beautiful to watch, and I'd love to see him playing in my team every week, and, you know, he'd get me off my seat, whereas this fella is just a hardened, nasty finisher. I've still not answered your question.
No, you haven't.
And what about you? What about you? Come on.
He hasn't answered yet.
Go on then, give us an answer. Yeah, you have to give us an answer.
Mbappe, I think Mbappe could go on to be a way better player because, but results-wise, I think Haaland's going to probably score more in his career.
Yeah, I think Haaland scores more in his career, but Mbappe is the better player.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to be so interesting to see where they both end up, isn't it?
You just hope that they become the Messi and the Cristiano Ronaldo of this era now, and they take it on.
And you'd 100% prefer to play against a Haaland type, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
He wouldn't give you sleepless nights, yet he still
I think he'd give you sleepless nights, but not as much maybe as Mbappe, because he can do so many different things, Mbappe. And the difference with Mbappe, especially with social media now, Mbappe is one of them who can embarrass you with a skill or take the mick, and then you don't sleep after the game, let alone before the game.
So that keep you awake at night, right?
It would do.
Let's have a little look at a few questions that you guys have been sending in. By the way, thank you very much for getting in touch. If you want to do the same, use the hashtag UCL tonight. Here's a nice one. Which player have you been surprised by or discovered this season in the UCL? Well, we've got some clips of a player that has taken the tournament by storm.
Yeah, I mean, Haller at Ajax has to be the one that jumps out. I mean, he was put on a scrap heap by West Ham, considered not good enough, and he's come to Ajax. I mean, great recruitment from their point of view. It was always on a lot of the team's lists in terms of recruitment before he went to West Ham. for that big fee. But he's come here and he's only Cristiano Ronaldo joins him in terms of scoring in every single group stage game up until this game here. 10 goals he's got. Phenomenal.
He's got everything as well, hasn't he? The size, the presence. You know, West Ham obviously saw something paying the amount of money they have, but I don't know what it is about this Ajax team. You know, players that might have failed elsewhere or you're not sure about. You know, I'm looking at Tadic, I'm looking at obviously Haller. You look at a few players and think, they're not that good on paper. All of a sudden, they turn into superstars as soon as they put on a white and red shirt. It's unbelievable. And this lad, well, look at his record in the Champions League so far.
I'll tell you what suited him is that they actually crossed the ball. He went to West Ham and didn't cross the ball.
Yeah.
He's 6'4", 5", good in the air, strong, aggressive. Once the ball crossed, they feed him. And you need that with strikers. Play to a player's strength, and they do that.
Yeah.
OK, another question that came from Alex, and he said, which Champions League player has impressed you the most so far? So if Haller the kind of standout arrival that you weren't expecting this season, if I could give you one player in the Champions League, who would you go for?
I'd go for Lewandowski. His numbers are scary. I mean, it's such a crime he didn't win the Ballon d'Or 2 years ago. He could have won it this season and possibly should have won it, but he was an absolute standout the season before. And if he retires having not won it, it will be a real shame. But again, in the Champions League, he's just shown his worth. Very clean finisher.
Would you say he's the cleanest finisher at the strikers about at the moment?
Yeah, I don't think Haaland miskicks many either. I think he's a very clean finisher. Yeah, I mean, this lad can do anything, can't he? In the air, left foot, right foot, pace. You know, he has got an instinct of nipping in front of a defender, dropping back onto the back post. He's probably the most complete centre forward around in the world.
He scores every type of goal, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Is he the best number 9 about for you?
I think he is. Yeah, he probably is. Again, Haaland will have a, you know, you'd debate that with Haaland because he's an out-and-out number 9 as well. He might end up scoring more goals or as many goals as this lad, but again, this lad oozes class and the complete centre forward.
You're a fan.
Yeah, I love him. He'd be a hard player to play against because he does a bit of everything. A lot of strikers normally have that one thing they hang hat on. They like running in behind, or they're really good in the air from crosses, or they're good target men. He does it all. So he poses so many different threats that you've got to be so aware, concentrated during the game to make sure that you try and nullify all the threats that he possesses. OK, here's another question. This is from Abdullah. He says, which team has surprised Rio and Michael this season and looks like a real dark horse for the UCL knockout stages like Ajax in 2019? Probably Ajax in 2022. I think, Ajax. I think they've been standout in terms of the way they dismantled the Dortmund team. For one, was a result you didn't see coming, but the way that they performed in that game absolutely tore them to shreds. And we spoke about Haller before, like players that you wouldn't expect to come into this Champions League and light it up. Anthony as well out wide. They've got players that are really performing, but more importantly, as a team, they look very, very comfortable in this Champions League this year. Me
and Rio were debating earlier about who's the best performance in the Champions League this year. You were saying Manchester City against Paris Saint-Germain was a good one, and this one as well. I think, you know, this was the biggest surprise for me when I looked at the results and saw, wow, Dortmund have been beaten 4-0 by Ajax. I couldn't believe it. And they've showed that it wasn't a fluke either. They've been absolutely outstanding throughout the group stage. And again, a team that you probably want to avoid. I mean, on paper, you'd fancy taking them on if you were one of the English clubs, but you probably want to avoid them. They're playing that well.
I just want to ask you one quick question. This one's come in because tomorrow night, obviously, we're going to be going to Old Trafford, mate. And it's a question from Ḥakib saying, how do you think Ronaldo would do under Ralf Rangnick? Will he be able to cope with the pressing that is required from Ralf?
I think you listen to Ralf Rangnick, he'll be adapting his tactics to suit a superstar like Cristiano Ronaldo. Don't forget that Schalke, he had another superstar in Raul, who was an Asian superstar, and adapted things so that he could make sure he could accommodate a player of that calibre and that class. We watched the game at the weekend. There was a big difference in the way the team was set up, the shape, the way that they pressed. And I think Ronaldo will buy into that completely because he wants to be successful. But he'll pick his punches as and when to go, and it will work around someone like him, I believe. And I think when you're scoring the goals that he does, as decisive as he is, you have to sometimes change and adapt for people like that.
Exactly. Some of the great teams of all time have had players that you carry slightly. And if it means you have to carry him slightly in terms of not pressing a little bit here or there, but the last game that they played, he was pressing all right.
Yeah.
And when you score the amount of goals he scores, there's not even a question that he'll be one of the first names on the team sheet.
And all the stat people as well, you look at the stats in terms of running, in terms of high-intensity runs and distance coverage, in terms of when it's higher sprints. He's up there, and he's right up there with Man United team with doing that.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your company. That's it, we're done. Right now over on BT Sport 1, you can see live coverage of the Ashes, so go and watch some cricket, and we'll see you for more Champions League tomorrow evening from all of us. Good night.
Can anybody out there hear me? Hear me?